using the theory of love just in the practice that I'm doing right here at Jefferson. And I'm telling them, you can come to me, if you need a mentor, if you need guidance. It doesn't stop after summer bridge. See, my students are always told, and I think this is just funny because the card that Bell Hook uses here is a card of hearts. And I tell my students that life isn't like a box of chocolates where you can pick and choose. It's more like a deck of cards. You're dealt a hand, and your success comes from the way you play it right.
Welcome back, listeners, to another session of the Say More podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Josh Wallace, and I'm here with another special guest. Hope, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good. So, Hope, I think you're telling us a little bit about love, hope and love.
I know, right?
So before we get into the theory and bell hooks and all about love, can you tell us a little bit about you and your background?
Absolutely. First of all, just thank you for having me on the show and just taking the opportunity to give students this kind of spotlight. I think it's going to be kind of fun. But my name is Hope Johnson. I went to Jefferson Community and Technical College. Y'all, I thought I was going to be an elementary school teacher. But them kids, I tell y'all. So teaching was my future. And I quickly realized that the classroom is beyond the four walls that they give you. And now I am in higher education. I'm loving it. I'm at UofL in the master program in higher education, student personnel and counseling. I'm finishing up my first year. Y'all, it's tough. It's rough, but I'm proud of myself and I just kind of keep going. And a little bit of just about my professional background. I've been all over. I've explored a lot of things and from the technology support, math and science department, um, the list goes on, guys, I promise. But currently I'm at Jefferson Community Technical College. They have my heart. I am the student engagement coordinator. I coordinate for all 6 of our campuses. And it is a wonderful experience to kind of get that student engagement and the initiatives for our students. Higher education is a roller coaster, but I'm up for the challenge and just looking forward to what's next.
Nice. Thanks for sharing a little bit about your background and letting our listeners get to know you, right?
Yeah.
So before we get into the sort of contents of the theory and Bell Hooks' sort of conception of love, can you tell us a little bit about the author of All About Love, Bell Hooks?
Absolutely. So the theory of love, it comes from a book, All About Love, from the late Gloria Jean Wilkins. But she's better known as her pen name, Bell Hooks. She's an American author. She's a theorist. She's an educator. She's unstoppable. She's awesome. She's a feminist, and she talks about class a lot. And she just comes from all these different subjects as a Black woman and being, in academia. She was born in 1952 and crazy enough, right here in Kentucky. And she was born in Hopkinsville, actually. She was born poor of the lower class. And she worked her way up and her academics, I promise you, tells it all. Um, Unfortunately, she did pass away at her young age of 69. In Berea, Kentucky, where she lived and taught at Berea College. But she pushed education. She loved education. And I really think that's one of the things that kind of pushed me to her theory and kind of just talking about love and how we see it. And in that academic world, she got her BA in Stanford University in 1973. She continued. Maybe someone out there in the listening ears might know of the college, but Wisconsin.
Wisconsin? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know a little bit
A
about that.
little bit about that. I don't know. I mean, it might be somebody's alma mater, but we don't got to talk about
It might be.
it. Might be. And then got her PhD at the University of California. And y'all, she's unstoppable. She she was in her dissertation. And just a fun fact about her, while she was doing her dissertation, and we all know how that could be, she decided to write and publish her first book, Ain't I a Woman? And I just think it's just so profound for her work.
Absolutely. Wow. Thanks for that just robust background and insight into bell hooks and I even learned some stuff. There were some things that I didn't even know. So I thank you. I appreciate that. Our listeners appreciate that. So now that we know a little bit about bell hooks and bell hooks' background, can you tell us a little bit about her conception of love and really her origins, the origins of her conception of love through the book All About Love.
Absolutely. So, All About Love is a beautiful, captivating book, where she kind of just breaks down all the things and all the ways we see love on a day to day basis, right? In this reflection, she really kind of came to writing this book after she reflected over her childhood, over her grief, over her loneliness. Having that kind of awakening period where she realizes that she's looking around and she says, there was nowhere there was nowhere longing for hope, longing for love. The loneliness had become the order of the day. And she's like, how are we in a place where love is not important anymore? And she kind of redefines how we see and how we view love. And through 14 chapters, 238 pages in one open mind, she redefines how we see love. And I think it's just a beautiful thing to just kind of see love in a different line that we have always seen it and rethinking what true love really means.
Yeah, yeah, very profound and thanks for just that insight into the origins and where she was really the place that she was coming from as she was building out her conception of love. So now we know about the author, we know a little bit about the origins of this work. Now we kind of want to get into the main ideas. So can you tell us what were some of the main sort of claims and ideas made by Bell Hooks in All About Love?
Absolutely. So the core ideas of the theory of love here, her main frame that she kind of stays around throughout the book is that love is not just a feeling, but an action and a practice. She argues that love requires all these many things. It requires care, responsibility, respect, knowledge, trust. And she kind of keeps breaking down over and over um her conception of love. See, the thing is, she argues that we oftentimes put love in spaces and relationships and conversations, and then we kind of misunderstand what love is, right? And in that kind of space, she's saying that we constantly think that it's a noun, but really it's an action and a practice. See, the takeaways from the theory of love is that love is a practice. Love is healing through love. Love is for everyone. And so it kind of puts us in this mindset of, do we really know what love is?
That's deep. Do we really know what love is? It's a question from Hope about love. Thank you, Hope, for sort of giving us insight into some of those main ideas around love and those main ideas that Bell Hooks was making around love. So as we've mentioned in class multiple times,
Oh
um,
man, here goes.
all theories have limitations. I'm sorry, all theories have limitations.
Man.
So given that all theories have limitations, what are some of the potential limitations of love and Bell Hooks is all about love?
All right, I'm gonna give it to y'all straight. Bell Hooks does not hold back in this book. So if you're not ready for the roller coaster, you're not ready for the ride, don't even pick it up. You have to be open minded for this one. And the challenge with this book is I found that I loved it so much that I was missing those limitations because I was like, yep, that's right. Yep, she understands that. Yep, she gets that. And then I'm just lost in all the words that she's saying and everything I can relate to. And then I had to kind of read it again. and then read it a second time, and maybe a third or a fourth until I kind of picked up, okay, girl, you got some limitations here. So it doesn't come as easy as when you're looking at this theory of love here. And so in that, I kind of had to see the bigger picture. And that bigger picture was, how do we use this theory? You tell us about love, you show us how it's used in these scenarios and situations, but how do we use it? How do we take what you're saying and reapply that, right? So those structural barriers that you can't fix. So if we're talking about love and saying that love is supposed to conquer and heal and do all these great things, what if we're putting in situations? What if I'm poor and of a poor class? How is love supposed to change the financial status of the situation that I'm in? So that was a structural barrier that was lost within the reading. Or how do we kind of break down how the action of saying that it's not a noun? How can we learn something that we have never been exposed to? We're put in these different situations, but not everyone has that equal opportunity. So those same things that she's talking about in the book, although we can relate to some, but we can't relate to all of them. So the limitations can be kind of lost in this evolution of, what are we using love for? How are we putting those things into a practice if we've been only learning them one way, one sided? So I'll leave you with this. Love, is it really an action?
Question mark. Wow. Is love an action? Wow, wow. Thank you, Hope, for just sort of we like to be nuanced. So thank you for sharing some of those potential limitations of Bell Hooks' sort of conception and thought around love. Um, so as educators, we're always thinking about practice, right? How are we applying things to practice? We never want theories to just be sitting up here in this sort of, in the air where we can't do anything with them. So I'm curious for you, how can we as students, faculty, staff, how can we take Bell Hooks' conception of love and apply it to student affairs practice and academic affairs practice?
Absolutely. So as I'm reading this book, and we're currently in a country where we're facing some really trying times when it just comes with diversity, inclusion, being equal and kind of just making space, right? It was just a few years ago that Black people were marching, protesting, for our rights, for our protection, for our freedom. I mean, DEI was built into the education system to promote those very affairs that are the unsupported, unrepresented groups. But now we see it's being attacked and torn down, right? So I had to kind of pull from that and say, if we had this conception of love as it being an action and we could use that in our education system, I think that that would be what we build upon. See, love can be used to build on our culture of care. It can strengthen engagement and belonging. It can support students to thrive and to transition in and outside of the classroom. See, at Jefferson, we have this thing called the Summer Bridge Program. Those students they're my babies. you know, um, they are excited and ready to learn. But those are also my students that signed up for this program just because they needed those unanswered questions. See, Summer Bridge was for them to be on campus on summertime, get acclimated with the campus, make connections, get resources. And then so that when they transition into the fall, that all those barriers have already been broken. But we kind of stopped at summer and didn't continue into the fall, into the spring semesters to do a more thorough check-in. So right now I'm using the theory of love just in the practice that I'm doing right here at Jefferson. And I'm telling them, you can come to me. if you need a mentor, if you need guidance, it doesn't stop after summer bridge. See, my students are always told, and I think this is just funny because the card that Bell Hook uses here is a card of hearts. And I tell my students that life isn't like a box of chocolates where you can pick and choose. It's more like a deck of cards. You're dealt a hand, and your success comes from the way you play it right. So if we're playing this game with education and we're not seeing that love and we're not using the card of hearts, then how are we playing this game? Education is lacking the love. It's lacking that emotional well-being, lacking the connection that stems from student to faculty to staff. And that doesn't stop just in the classroom. That's outside of the classroom and in their daily lives. See, I think that, we're playing this game, but we're forgetting the card of heart.
Wow. Very powerful. Thank you. Thank you, Hope. I wish we could keep going and I wish we had more time, but I'm sorry, listeners, that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank my esteemed guest, Hope, for coming through and bestowing some knowledge onto our listeners, but also onto myself. Hope, anything you want to leave our listeners with?
Absolutely. In the words of the late Bell Hooks, I want to leave the listeners with this. She says, trapped by the past, unable to move into the future. Like every wounded child, I just wanted to be turned back to time. We never can go back. I know that now. We can only go forward. Bell Hooks.
Wow. Mic drop. Mic drop, Hope. Mic drop. Well, again, thank you, listeners, for coming through and listening to another session. But until next time, see ya. Bye.
See you guys.